Hi guys, Mr. Hill here. We've got our computing lesson for this week today. We've looked at online behaviour, we've looked at online safety, and we're going to look a bit about the information that's available online and thinking about what a fact is and what an opinion is and how it can manipulate our thoughts about what we read when we're on the internet, how it can change our opinion about things. So the first thing we need to think about, what is a fact? So a fact is something that is known or proved to be true. It's something that can be examined and tested. So, for example, TLAP is an outstanding school. This is known to be true. Ofsted came into the school. They assessed how the school does things. They talked to the students, the teachers, Mrs. Bowen, and they came to the decision following this process that we're an outstanding school. The other thing that you can say to be a fact is that Manchester United have won a number of Premier League titles and things like that. So things that you've got evidence-based information behind it. Another example, thinking about our materials that we're doing in science at the moment. A cardboard pipe would not be any good for carrying water because it'll get soggy, it'll fall apart and it'll leak and there'll be water everywhere. Whereas we know from our things, the fact is that metal or plastic will be much better as a pipe to work for carrying water. An opinion is a viewpoint that someone has. It's not necessarily based on fact. For example, I think red is the best color. That's my opinion, that's my choice. Now, you might not like red, might be because the football team you don't like, Manchester United or Liverpool, wear red. You might be a Tottenham supporter or a Manchester City supporter, so you think white or blue would be a better color. So that's very much an opinion. It's your feelings about something. So let's have a go. I've got 10 statements on the screen here. Can you tell fact from fiction? So what I want you to do is read each statement and write down whether you think it's fact or opinion. So pause the video, have a go. How have you got on with those? I'll share the answers with you and we'll go through them together. Number one is a fact. That man has a beard. There is a picture of a man we can see, we can look at it, and we know that he has a beard. Orange is the best color. That goes back to what we were saying before. That's someone's opinion, that you might like orange for a particular reason. Apples taste better than pears. Again, it's an opinion. Peter can run faster than Paul is a fact. We can measure it. We can measure how fast they can run over a distance. There's a frog in the pond. We can see that there's a frog in the pond. It is a fact. The next three, so 6, 7, and 8, were all opinions. Number 9, he's better at art than maths. Yep, you can see that. You can look at his maths work. You can look at his artwork. You can see clearly the difference. You shouldn't go swimming in the sea. Now, that's an opinion as well. The fact that you could add on to it and make it into a fact to say, because it's really polluted, because it's next to a nuclear power station, you could make it into a fact, but just that statement on its own is someone's opinion. So we've looked at statements on their own as being able to work out what's fact and what's fiction. How about in a piece of writing, would you be able to work out what's fact and what's fiction? I've got 3 statements here. You can do one of them, 2 of them, or all 3 of them if you're feeling confident. Have a go. See if you can work out what's the fact and what's the opinion. What I want you to do, copy out the one you're going to do, underline in one color what you think is fact, underline in another color what you think is opinion. Pause the video here to complete this. Okay, how did you think you got on with those? So I've changed the color of the text on mine to make it nice and easy to see what you're looking for. So number 1, hate housework. You'll love the Super Sweeper vacuum cleaner. Well, this is an opinion. It's what someone thinks you will like. They don't know you. They don't know what's in how you feel and how you think. So they're suggesting you'll like it. So it's an opinion. 5 interchangeable nozzles and 3 times the usual suction power. That's a fact. We can look in the box. We can see, yes, there are 5 interchangeable nozzles I can measure how hard it sucks to get the dust off the carpet. I can measure that and I can compare it with what the usual vacuum cleaner suction would be like. There's nothing quite like it. That's someone's opinion. There might be something that's even better. There might be something that's very similar that we just don't know about. Buy it today and receive a 1% discount. That's not the most generous discount you could ever receive, but it is a fact. If you do something today, this is what you'll get. Miss out and you'll regret it. Will I? I don't know. I'm not that bothered about what vacuum cleaner I use, so long as it gets the cat hair and dust and dirt up after the carpet. It doesn't really matter to me. So I don't think I would regret it if I didn't buy it today. Here are the other two. Mark up your answers. If you've got a few muddled up, correct them. See if you can work out why they're a fact and why they're an opinion. We need to think about why this is also important. So it's important to be able to distinguish between facts and opinions as sources of information are more diverse than ever thanks to the internet. So the internet's not that old, but it's certainly younger than me. So I remember when I was growing up, it was the newspaper, the radio, and the television that you got most of your information from. And there were certain books. There was the Encyclopedia Britannica, I remember having copies of, which was a whole volume of books that had lots of information in it, which was all checked. It was all reviewed. It was all made sure that it was factual. The newspapers and the radio broadcasts and the television, they had comments put in, well, this is someone's opinion. We've got an editorial piece. So an editorial piece in a newspaper is saying this is someone's opinion on what's going on in the world today. It's not the facts, it's an opinion. Online, this is very different now. There are limitless sources of information. I could go on and start a blog online saying whatever I want it to say, and I can claim that there's certain information that backs up what I'm saying. No one's going to check it. And this is where the problems start building in, where we have things like fake news starting to appear, because there isn't this process of checking. Is this information correct? Have I found the right source of information? Can I check it? Have I checked it even in some cases? So be careful. Some online writers will put some facts into their opinion writing to support a viewpoint. And this has led to what's known as fake news. Now, what ends up happening is it gets picked up by the media, so the mainstream media, so your newspapers, the television channels, and reported as being true. So there's two kinds of fake news. There are false stories that are deliberately published or sent around in order to make people believe something untrue or to get lots of people to visit a website. Now, you might have seen these when you've been looking for things on YouTube or doing research. You'll see something that's really eye-catching that will say, have you read this about so-and-so? So it might say, have you read that Mr. Hill is actually from the Philippines and is pretending to be English? It's completely untrue, but you think, oh, I know Mr. Hill. I wonder if it is true. And the website might be about something completely different. So deliberately lies that are put up online, even though the person writing them knows that they're made up. So, for example, I've gone online and I've made my own newspaper, the TLAP Times, and I've discovered a cutting from it. So I've taken a piece out of it about a new pool for school. So it's from this morning's copy. We're excited to announce that Mrs. Bowen, the head teacher at Langley Academy Primary, is going to build a swimming pool by the Green Drive entrance. This will mean that all students will be able to have a swim before being collected at the end of the day. I believe that it is important that all students have the opportunity to swim and splash around at the end of a busy day at school, Mrs. Bowen stated. Work is expected to start on Monday, the 25th of January and be completed by February half term. Now, this is the other kind of fake news. There's some true bits in there, but most of it's made up. Langley Academy Primary exists. Mrs. Bowen exists. Green Drive exists. So there's 3 bits of information in there that are actually true. The rest of it is not been checked. I've not spoken to Mrs. Bowen to ask if it's true. I couldn't find the builder that's doing it. So this is where the other type of fake news comes in. There may have been some truth to them, but it's not completely accurate. So this is because the people writing, for example, the journalists or the bloggers, they don't check all of the facts before publishing the story, or they might exaggerate some of it. Now, I've obviously not checked all the facts. I've obviously exaggerated the fact that we're going to have a pool to buy Green Drive entrance so that we can all have a swim at the end of the day. As lovely as that would be, it's not completely accurate. So this is what we have to be on the lookout for. Is it too good to be true? Sometimes you see news stories, you think that can't be true. And actually, with a bit of research, it is. So some handy little guides to spotting things that might not quite be right. Have you seen the story reported anywhere else? So it might be there's a random promoted link on social media and you've not seen anything about it anywhere else. You've not seen it when you've been maybe looking for doing some research on the BBC website for something. Have you heard about it on the radio, the television, or even seen it on the newspaper? So if your parents get the newspaper, have a look through occasionally. There might be things in there that you've seen online, you think, that can't be right, but actually it's published in the newspaper. So it adds a bit of truth and sort of removes the element of fake news from it. Have you heard of the organization that published the story? There's a great website called The Onion, and they print and publish some ridiculous stories that every now and again someone picks up and thinks, oh wow, it's true, it's published on this really well thought of website, that's actually there just to make fun of things. So does the website where you found the story look genuine? Sometimes that people make websites to look like other websites, but they're not. So you need to look at the website address at the very top. You normally see .co.uk or .com, and not something odd like .com.co, which would suggest that actually maybe this isn't the most trustworthy source of information. Does this photo or video look normal? Does it look like someone's been at it with Photoshop and messed around with the image? Does the story sound believable as well? Like I said, the new, Mr. Hill's actually from the Philippines. Well, possibly not, because I'm quite tall. I don't have the right skin tone. I do like Asian food, and I like my food nice and spicy and hot, and I like the hot weather. But I'm clearly not from the Philippines. So it would be fake news. So it would be an unbelievable story that you could very quickly go and fact check. So don't take everything you see online as being necessarily true as soon as you've read it. If you think something doesn't sound right, do a little bit more research. This is certainly true when you're doing research projects for maybe history as we go through, or science, and looking for information. Take a minute and double check what you've looked up, because it might be that you've just found somewhere that's come up with something a little bit ridiculous in order to get you to click on their webpage, to look at their advertising, and maybe give them some revenue that way. So just remember that that's sometimes what these stories are here for. So your task, create an imaginary story. Make it as ridiculous as you can. So I've put my example of the new pool for school back on. I've got 3 pieces of truth in that story. The school exists, the address exists, and Mrs. Bowen exists. The rest of it, I've just made up this afternoon. I've found a website where I can make my own newspaper cuttings. I've typed it in, I've put it together, and there you go. So this is what I want you to do. Create your imaginary story, and please make it as ridiculous and as funny as you want to, but make sure there's 3 pieces of truth in it. I would suggest have one person that actually does exist. So whether you choose myself or Mr. Burford or Miss Butt or a member of your family, that's absolutely fine. I would suggest a location that's true as well, that exists. So whether you want to use Green Drive or whether you want somewhere else, maybe the Philippines, keep going back to my example. And also a person. And we've done a person, we've done a place, and maybe think of another place. I've got 2 places in mind, haven't I? I've got Langley Academy and Green Drive. But we want 3 pieces of truth. Or you could look up something that you know to be true. So the Anglo-Saxons came to England. You could then say, while they settled in England, they settled in these places, so have real places where they settled, and say the biggest problem they had was they couldn't find anywhere to plug their phones in to charge them. So they had to find a way of creating electricity. Now, some of that's true because the Anglo-Saxons did come to Britain. They did settle in Britain. They came across the sea in their boats. They didn't necessarily have phones, but you can start seeing how you can build these stories up. So that's your challenge for computing for today. I look forward to seeing your work on Tapestry. And as always, I'll see you next time and stay safe.